Jeffrey the Greek's joining us. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. Had him on last week. We had so much fun, so let's just do this every week. Jill and Sin with us still, of course, from Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Jeffrey, welcome in.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I put down a bet last week, just a three-team parlay, and I got destroyed because I took the under in the Indiana game, thinking, and damn, oh my God, they blew it out. They doubled the score, probably what the under was. I think the under was like 40 points, and they scored like 70 between the two of them.
Yeah, it's funny. So I do a lock of the week. Going into that game, I was 6-2 on the year, which is pretty good for a lock of the week. Do you think I heard from anybody during the 4-game losing or winning streak? No, but I missed one lock of the week, man. I got lit up like a Christmas tree all weekend.
What have you done for me lately, baby?
That's how it goes. Yeah, but hey, your quarterback McCulley obviously had a lot to do with that. I mean,
yes.
A little bit of fresh blood, a little bit of more mobility in the pocket, and I thought he looked pretty good.
And got better, and we talked about this, most importantly, he got better with each snap. You could tell he got comfortable, which you would expect or hope, but that's a true freshman out there. And I've said this a couple of times before you've joined us, that tomorrow night is, it's tonight, hell, today's Friday. Tonight is sectional championship night in Indiana. They're playing for sectional titles, which 1 year ago, he was playing for a sectional title and probably 3,500 people. Whereas tomorrow, he's going to be playing in front of 110,000 people. A little bit difference in it, but it's just, that's baptism by fire. And it's good enough that he had that game last week. It'll help him this week. I know how loud that place is. So, but you know what? If he can keep his cool, I'm not saying Indiana's going to go up there and upset Michigan, but they could probably, they're what, 21 point underdog? I think that they cover the spread. I don't see him getting blown out if he stays comfortable.
Well, you didn't have me on here to agree with everything you say, so I guess we'll start.
Well, that didn't take long, did it?
Heck, I don't even think I agree that Michigan Stadium's all that loud, to be honest with you. It's about the most quiet 110,000 people that you could ever assemble. But
it's coming from an Iowa guy, of course.
I do agree that he has provided a spark. I mean, I think even you saw the Hoosier rushing attack come alive a little bit because the defense, had to stay a little bit more honest with the passing attack. The Maryland defense might have had something to do with that. They have fallen apart more than I had anticipated last week, but I am excited to see, a little bit more wrinkles from the Indiana offense this week. But with that being said, going into that environment, I mean, I kid about the Michigan Stadium, but going into that environment is going to be tough. And on the other side, Jim Harbaugh, well documented, not real good against highly ranked teams or his rivals. But if you look at his record, before and after playing those highly ranked teams and rivals, it's really good. So people are worried about, the drop off for Michigan after playing Michigan State the week before.
And they have a Penn State game next week.
But that's Michigan. They've always just lost a big rival or a big ranked team, and then they wind up, pounding the team they played. So that's the best backhanded compliment I can give Khaki Pants, is that he's really good at rebounding from big losses.
I mean, yeah, basically the story.
Well, he certainly has a lot of opportunities in that regard.
Exactly.
Yeah. The story of Jim Harbaugh's tenure at Michigan has been he wins the games that he's supposed to win and loses most of the toss-up games, essentially, and has never upset anyone ever. So the stat that I find the craziest was that when Michigan beat Wisconsin earlier this year, Wisconsin was actually favored by 1.5. And that was the first time that Michigan had ever won during Jim Harbaugh's tenure as an underdog. It never happened before.
Yeah, it's crazy. Those type of stats have just haunted Khaki Pants right from the get-go since he's been at Michigan. And there was another coach in the Big Ten that talked about watching the same movie over and over again. This has been the same movie for Michigan fans. I think you saw some of that bubble over on Twitter Saturday and Sunday, which happens. But with that being said, still got to be a win that Michigan gets if Khaki Pants wants to kind of keep things going this year. And personally, I think they will. I think I hidden in that last week was that Michigan's passing attack, which I think has been dragged a little too hard this year. You saw some talent come alive on the outside. The passing game was there when they needed it to be. And I think you're going to see more of that on Saturday night when they play Indiana.
And Indiana's defense, oh my gosh, that had been their hallmark all year, and it had been the one thing that allowed us to keep saying, okay, Indiana still has a chance here if they can get this going on. If they, man, when your anchor falls apart, which has been their defense, and it has for the last two games, I was amazed that they were in the game as well as they were against Maryland, because they were just to give up 400 yards passing. I know that they were beat up a little on the outside with Tywan Mullen and Reese, but man, that defense has been the only thing that's held them in check. And boy, that thing has kind of gone sideways.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any Austin Powers fans out there, but do you remember in one of the movies where somebody sucked his mojo out? That's pretty much what's happened to the Indiana defense. I was a big proponent of the Hoosier defense for most of the year. I thought they did look good, but just a combination of injuries, wear and tear of the season. And I was expecting that Indiana defense to bow up last week one more time. Again, one of the reasons why I like the under in that game. But as of right now, the Indiana defense is very much they got to prove it to me that if they can come up and start hitting people.
So what? This week, what are they? 20 or 21 point?
I think we're closer to 19, but yeah, we're getting up into that 20-point mark.
So what's your pick on that?
So I got Michigan State 37, Indiana 17. So not a gigantic. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't.
You mean Michigan, right?
What? Oh, sorry, Michigan 37, Indiana 17. So I don't. That line is right pretty much where it needs to be. So I don't love that thing either way, but I try to make a prediction for every Big Ten game on the podcast, which is the Eyes on Big podcast, by the way. Please feel free to listen.
Forget that. Throw that up there.
Yeah,
throw that up there too.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, you nailed it already. I mean, the combination of a young quarterback going into a tough environment and me not trusting that Indiana defense too much, I think that's enough for Michigan to get the cover after what might be kind of a sluggish start out of Michigan.
Your number 22 Iowa Hawkeyes, man, Indiana made them look good, and I thought that they were going to run away with the West title. At that time, I'm like, wow, I knew their offense was okay, but their defense was really good, and so that's a good enough combination, and then it didn't work out that way. And so now Minnesota is tied or leading the freaking West. And I'm like, wow. I look at Minnesota as such an average team at best.
Yeah. As of right now, there's one anomaly on Minnesota's schedule. It was obviously that nasty home loss to Bowling Green. Other than that, they played Ohio State really, really well. I mean, they led in that game deep into the third quarter. People kind of forget. And they have pretty much controlled the game with that big old offensive line of theirs. And they have got a much better defense than I think most people realize. That's a good football team. I hate to say this, but I was actually kind of proud of the College Football Playoff Committee putting them into the rankings because I deserve they should be there. I've actually been saying that on the podcast and on Twitter for quite some time. So as of right now, it seems like it's down to a 4-team race in the Big West. And I'd like to point out it is November, every team in the Big Ten is still bowl eligible. Try to find me a time when you could say that in the past. That to me speaks to the depth of the conference, and the West is very much like that, where Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Purdue all very much in the thick of things to get to Indianapolis. So it's going to be a heck of a finish here.
And I look at Iowa's schedule playing out. Wisconsin's the last game, of course, which will be a tough one. They've got Illinois this week, which is should be a cakewalk for them. Then they've got Indiana. No, I'm looking at Minnesota's schedule. My fault.
Minnesota, yeah.
This is Minnesota's. They've got Illinois, which should be a cakewalk. Then they've got Iowa. Now that's going to be. Where is that game? Is that at Iowa?
That's in Kinnick. Yeah,
See,
that's in Kinnick.
That's going to be a fun game to watch. I guess that's going to be the tipping point right there, because whoever wins that game then goes on, and Minnesota has to finish with Wisconsin with an Indiana game in between there. They have to come to Indiana. Do they catch Indiana while we're focusing on Iowa and Wisconsin? It's just a lot of stuff, a lot of things into play there.
Yeah. So, Iowa's got Northwestern this week. Minnesota, who do they got? Minnesota's got Illinois, pretty decent sized favorites at home there. Wisconsin, so the three of the favorites, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, Vegas says they're all going to win. Then Purdue, only a 3-point dog to number 3 Michigan State. But that's a conference, game for Purdue. So, it's like I said, 4-team race. Then next weekend, Minnesota at Iowa. If we think, the favorites will win out, that will kind of be one of the de facto Big Ten West games to get to Indianapolis. Minnesota has, we could probably save it for next week, but Minnesota has not beaten Iowa in Kinnick since 1999. Been a long time. So going to be a good kick. We'll see how it all works out.
I'll tell you a game that I like, just because of its intrigue. Michigan State at Purdue. Purdue just has that knack of, for some reason out of nowhere, winning a game that you're like, what? And this might be that game, because I don't think Michigan State is as good as their ranking. I'm not saying they're not a good team, but Purdue is just up, down, and I don't know where they are, but that's just going to be an intriguing game for me.
Yeah, for the podcast, I quoted J. Robert Oppenheimer, inventor of the nuclear weapon. I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. That's Purdue. That's what Purdue does to top 5 ranked teams. So, and I'll say this, Michigan State fans have reacted accordingly. They're nervous. They know what's going on here. It's the letdown after the Michigan game. They got a big game coming up after that. They have to go on the road. It looks like they're going to be without, almost for sure going to be without one of their best wide receivers, Jacob Panashuk, on the defensive line. It looks like he's out. He is one of their pass rushers. There is a cacophony of things to make you nervous as a Michigan State fan. And then we see that reflected in the line. A number 3 team, only a 3-point favorite versus Purdue. That's our Big Ten game of the week. I can't wait to watch that.
I'm looking forward to it. Dylan, you cover the Boilers. That's and Purdue needs to win still. They need to become bowl eligible. Like, they have plenty of time, but they need to get that in. They're at 5 wins right now, I think.
Yeah, they are at 5 wins. They're 5-3. They have Ohio State next week. So they would like to get bowl eligible before they have to play that game, because then down the stretch they also have, I believe, Northwestern and then IU, and then you don't want to be in the position of having to win one of those games, because those will both be tough as well. But yeah, I will be at Ross-Ade Stadium on Saturday, so I'm excited for that. Jeff, basically last week against Nebraska, Purdue was able to find a run game for one of the first times this season. They got over 100 yards as a team for the first time all year. So Xander Horvath coming back for the first time since week 2 against Connecticut, that's significant for them. And that should open things up on offense at least a little bit, because they've been running into brick walls all season.
Man, next
Yeah.
week we got to do 2 segments of this. It's just too much. I can't. We've had such a great lineup today, but we got to double up with Jeff. So we're about out of time. What's your lock? And give me a 3-team parlay.
All right, I'll give it to you. You can get 2 right out of one game. I would take the under 40.5 in Northwestern Iowa. I don't see either one of these offenses putting up a lot of points. And then you can take Northwestern plus the 12 in that same game. That's going to be a low scoring game that, I mean, I think Iowa pulls it out, but not extremely confident. And then staying in the Big Ten West, I'll take Wisconsin to beat Rutgers by more than 12. I think that it's not going to be by much, but speaking of not much, that's how much offense Rutgers is going to get in that game. So I think Wisconsin's offense can do enough to cover the 12.
There you go. You got it. The word on from Jeffrey the Greek. Man, I cannot wait to make sure Eyes on Big Ten podcast. Don't forget that, to give him a follow. Next week we got to double up this. There's just too much fun to be had.
We can
do it. All right, brother. You have a great weekend. Look forward to it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.